Hello and welcome to Inside Sports. I'm Wes Decker and he is Dan Kaufman. We both welcome you to the show. Talked to Kevin Dunleavy last week, Dan, about handshakes and how they're so confounding to me. I just never know what somebody is bringing to the table with their handshake. Last night at the Indoor Track and Field State Championships, guy comes up to me and says, I'm going to prove to you that I watched the show. I'm not going to shake your hand. So I appreciate that because we talked about how we'd prefer the old standard handshakes. You just don't know what's going on, the thumbs, it's all of those things. So we really don't have time to get into it. I don't know what you prefer handshake-wise, but let's go ahead and get into indoor track and field. 1A, 2A state championships, and the Boonesboro girls right off the top, they leave no
doubt.
No doubt.
Absolutely no doubt.
See, I need you to finish my sentence.
There you go.
Don't shake my hand, just finish my sentence.
Hey, I can blow a high five, so I'm all for avoiding handshakes. Everybody knew that Boonesboro's girls were the favorite going in. I think they were even more impressive than maybe anybody expected. I mean, to win by 40 points at a state meet is highly impressive. No matter what. Obviously, Haley Wright, we thought she was going to be the show going in. She didn't disappoint. 4 state titles under her belt, the 800, the 1600, the 3200, and the 4x8 to begin her day, anchoring that, setting a new 1A state record in the 1600, and absolutely gave it everything she had. She was one exhausted girl at the end of that meet.
Yeah, does the fact that she's so impressive and has been so impressive, that our expectations are so high that when she does this, we're really not surprised?
I was thinking about this last night, and no, I was very impressed with her last night, and I'll tell you why. When you're that good an athlete and maybe just that much of the class of the field, some athletes have a tendency to give 80, 85, 90% and just coast to their wins and just do the least amount necessary. And Haley could have done that last night to some degree as well. I mean, for the most part, she was running by herself all night. But no, she gave max effort. She cranked that 1600 out with everything she had. I think she gave everything she had left in the tank in the 3200, and then to run the 800 that she did. Again, the 3200 and 800 were her best times, but given what was left in the tank after the 1600, she gave 100%, and even more so than the 4 state titles. I appreciate that she went out and ran that hard at that event because you got to see her at her best.
Yeah, and she also had to do it after, as everybody did, going to school earlier in the day versus the President's Day, where it was originally scheduled where everybody would have been able to just go and compete on that particular day. A couple of new kids on the block as far as state championships. Cameron Harper in the 500. Bethany Lohman in the pole vault for Boonesboro.
Cameron Harper was the favorite in the 500. She was definitely challenged in that race. It's kind of funny when you watch her start a 500, she's very kind of relaxed, takes that first 200, 300 meters pretty easy, almost looks like a jog for her, even though it's obviously not. And then she turns it on late, and she did that very well, timed her final sprint very well, and got to the line about a couple steps in front. So congratulations to her. Bethany Lohman set a personal best with her 9 feet effort in the pole vault, and it was good enough to win. I know there was another girl seated at 9 feet in that event, but you got to do it on that day. So obviously they did their part to help Boonesboro's girls be as impressive as they were.
And Smithsburg finishes second, but Lauren Daniels finished second to none individually in 2 events, and then leading the way in a relay too.
Yeah, if Haley Wright was star 1A, then Lauren Daniels was star 1B last night. Had an even better meet than even I would have imagined for her. In the 300, we thought Gabby Reason ran fast last year when she ran 42.04 and just stunned everybody. Well, Lauren Daniels ran 41.5 last night and just was just stunning. Just to see her burst in much the same fashion that Gabby had the burst. And then comes back in the 55, which was not an event that she was favored in. And with 10 meters to go, you thought maybe she'd finish third and just had that little extra burst in the lean at the line. And all of a sudden you were waiting for the results to go up and her name pops up first. And it's like, my goodness, she did it. An incredible effort from her.
Yeah, so Smithsburg finishes second for the 2nd straight year. In a way, you could say Boonesboro's won 3 straight 1A state championships on the girls' side.
With a 2-year break.
That's
absolutely.
right. As far as the boys are concerned, Fairmont Heights outdistances both Smithsburg and Boonesboro. And I talked to Coach Becky Walter of Boonesboro, and she said, Where did these guys come from in the relays for Fairmont Heights?
That's exactly the key. They had so much running depth. I mean, they won some relays, and they didn't necessarily win a lot of individual events because Smithsburg's individual stars, Micah Daniel and Will Merritt, prevailing in 2 events each, kind of kept Fairmont Heights from some of those titles. But Fairmont Heights had so much running depth. They had 2 or 3 kids in almost every race and finishing well in every race, that depth really did matter in the end. But I think if you were to ask both Becky Walter and Ray Shriver how their boys' teams did, they would have both left the gym very pleased that night.
Yeah, and you mentioned Merritt and Daniel. Merritt, 1,600 and 3,200 victories. Also tried his guts out in the 4x800, was just too far out of it there. Daniel wins the 500 and the 800, was also third in the 300. So just a banner night for the senior all around.
And they were both very impressive. I mean, even in the 300 for Mika and like you said, the relay that Merritt anchored, and then the individual events where all 4 of those individual events that they won, they were clearly superior in, and you could see the training not just over this season, but this really started for them last year, as we've talked about on this show. Right. It all coming to fruition, and I know they were very, very, the rewards, it was more than that gold medal that was a reward for them. It was all that work that was paying off.
And 2 Boonesboro boys individual champions, Isaiah Elzy in the high jump, and then Jordan Churchy in the shot put. And I think if you had factored in those bonus points for Boonesboro before it all started, I think they would have felt like, hey, we've got a great shot at winning this whole thing.
Absolutely. I mean, Jordan Churchy throwing 43 feet in the shot put, he'd never thrown further 42 feet or beyond. So that was a huge win for them. And I mean, he had the top throw in 1A coming into the meet, but still 43, great effort. Isaiah Elzy clearing 5.10 twice because he had to win a jump off in the end. But absolutely, with those 2 titles going to them, the Warriors would have felt very good. But ultimately, tip of the cap to Fairmont Heights.
And what do you do after you win the high jump? Well, you sit down and you take off your high jumping shoes right away. That's what you do.
And he had to go run a relay really quickly.
That's right.
Everybody was very busy.
Big quick turnaround, including you. And
absolutely.
Thanks for being here the day after, Dan.
No problem. Thank you very much.
I'll be back right after this. Andy Mason joins me to talk wrestling in just a moment.
This is our home. It's where we've all decided to put down roots and raise families, not because we had to, because we wanted to. And as a business owner, you pour every ounce of energy into doing what's right for you in this community, and you won't and you don't stop until you get what you want, and neither do we. We're Antietam Cable Productions, and it's time to stand up and be seen and heard. You have a voice, and we'll help you tell your story. Antietam Cable Productions, putting the beat into the heart of your business.
Well, Eric and I worked for a long time together in the corporate restaurant world, and we decided that we wanted to put the fun back into food.
We do our food our way. We take the traditional and spin it.
We change our menu regularly. We have specials that are creative. Great food, great service in a warm and friendly environment where you can be in jeans and a t-shirt next to someone in a business suit and everyone feels comfortable.
Welcome back to the show. We continue with wrestling now, and county wrestling tournament was last Saturday, as we told you about last show, and turned out to be a pretty good one, Andy, although certainly rather formful.
Yeah, well, North High won for the 3rd straight year. They were the favorite, and no huge surprise there.
Yeah, not at all. They get 10 wrestlers through to the championship finals, which obviously helped their cause in a big way. Williamsport got 7 through. Williamsport actually went 3-1 against North in the championship finals, but it was the strength of that North Hagerstown team, the depth of that team that really showed through.
Yeah, North and Williamsport each had 5 champions, but North had 5 second-place finishers. Williamsport only had 2. North had more bonus points in the tournament, a few more pins, a couple tech falls, and all that added up to a victory for North. Not like I said, no huge surprise. 26th annual tournament, Williamsport and North now each have 10 titles all time. Smithsburg has the other 6. A few years ago, I guess after the 18th annual, it was 666, and since then it's just been all either North or Williamsport. Williamsport finishes second to North for the 3rd straight year.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to me that that's the way that it's broken. Those 2 have risen to the top and have really had a stranglehold on it. Yeah. Talked about Boonesboro last week and maybe some of the impact they had in that tournament. Really what they had impact-wise sort of hurt Williamsport in the long run because they're kind of hoping that potentially Boonesboro, Smithsburg, and South would kind of mix things up and get a few more guys in there, knocking a few of the North Hagerstown wrestlers out. Didn't quite play out that way.
Yeah, Boonesboro finished third, Smithsburg fourth, South fifth. For Boonesboro, I'm sure they had goals of place a little bit higher after the great season they've had, but North and Williamsport just too strong. But for Boonesboro, still matches their best ever finish at the county tournament, taking third.
And 139 points, the most they've ever scored there. So again, a small measure of victory for Boonesboro in the long run, although the Warriors went just 1-4 in the championship finals. Anything from the tournament stand out to you in particular?
Well, you go through each weight. It's like there's a great story at each weight. For Boonesboro, they only had one champion, Jeffrey Henline, at 113 pounds, a kid that beginning of the season no one really heard much about. In the finals, he won by major decision over North's Hoyt Cheney, who was a two-time county champ. So that was I don't know if you call it an upset. Henline's had a great season, but that was maybe a little bit of a surprise.
And from that Williamsport camp, two more four-time county champions, which is a major accomplishment.
Oh, yeah. Justin Beckley at 126 pounds, Tanner Canfield at 152. Yeah, they both seniors, obviously, both four-time county champs, the 14th and 15th wrestlers in tourney history to become four-timers, and that's a great accomplishment.
And overall, a tournament that was well run. Everything turned out, pretty much on schedule in the end. Yeah. And the Clyde Downs Trophy goes right back over to Pennsylvania Avenue from where it had come. And now this sets us up for regions.
Right. The region tournaments, they're both one-day they used to always be 2-day, Friday, Saturday. Both tournaments that our kids are involved with are one-day tournaments. 2A, 1A West is at Garrett College at Deep Creek Lake. That's all day Saturday. I'll be there. Kevin Dunleavy will be at 4A, 3A North at Westminster High School one day, where North and South will be.
And how are our teams looking? Give us kind of a thumbnail sketch.
Well, we'll start with North High. They're the two-time defending tournament champions. They have 11 wrestlers going, and they have top seeds from, no surprise, Brian Stewart and Aaron Brooks, the two returning state champions. They're number one seeds. Now, interesting, Isaiah Brooks. He's 36-0 this season. Aaron's older brother, the senior, three-time county champ. He's seeded second because DeAndre Reed from Digital Harbor, the returning state champion, is in that weight class. When you're a returning state champ, you get the top seed. So that should be potentially a great final between those two. DeAndre Reed has a loss this year to Aaron Brooks, Isaiah's younger brother. Yeah, so there's a lot of history there. Last year, I believe Hunter Faith beat DeAndre Reed in the region final, and then Reed came back and beat Hunter in the state final. So Hunter Faith. So yeah, there's a lot of some history there between those two.
Yeah, maybe a little retribution.
Yeah,
there.
And South High has a top seed, defending champ Brandon Nagati at 285. He's 32-0 right now, and he's on a tear.
Yeah, I thought, for what South had at the county tournament, to come away with a couple of county champions there.
Yeah, and Tim Heidke, at 132, it's a great story. The last 2 years he's gotten to the county final and has lost. This year he gets back there and he gets, as a senior and wins. And he'll be going as well as Derek Hanna for South at the region tournament. 2A, 1A West, Williamsport has 9 going, Boonesboro 8, Smithsburg 5. Top seeds, Justin Beckley, top seed at 126. Kobe Baker is the top seed at 182. He's only wrestled 7 matches this year because he was ineligible the first half of the season, but he's won all 7 of them, got his 3rd county title.
I wonder if Kobe will wear the throwback singlet there at Regents.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I thought that was a cool look, actually.
Yeah, so he's the top seed at 182. Bryce Scott's top seed at 220 for Smithsburg.
Yeah, so should be, big time there, no question about it. The 2 region championships, states right around the corner, so this is how you punch your ticket.
Yeah, you got to place top 4 in the region, you go to states.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about.
It won't be easy at all because the caliber of wrestler just ramps up there.
Oh, yeah.
Andy, enjoy your trip up near Deep Creek.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you about it next week.
Sounds good, Wes.
All right, appreciate it, Andy. Thanks for being here. I'll be back in just a moment. We've got basketball brackets to break down. First up, Williamsport girls coach Kevin Murphy talks about the girls' playoff look in just a moment.
Antietam Cable's WCL-TV invites you to take a tour of local restaurants from the comfort of your couch with our local dining guide, airing now. Your host Sam Little goes beyond just the dining room and sits down with local owners and chefs to talk about what makes their restaurants local favorites. We explore the best of American cuisine, head south of the border for a little heat, and travel over the Atlantic for some of Italy's best. Washington County is a hotspot for great food, and we're showing you what you've been missing with WCL-TV's local dining guide, airing now on Channel 30 and in HD on Channel 489. Don't give in to the winter blahs when bad weather hits. Sleet, ice, and snow days are perfect days to cuddle up with Antietam Cable. Antietam Digital Cable offers a huge selection of on-demand movies and shows to watch when you're snowed in. It's like having a multiplex movie theater right in your own home. Ordering is simple. Go to Channel 1 to make your selection, and your choice plays instantly. Pause, fast forward, rewind. You're in control. Stay warm, stay inside, and make Snow Day Movie Day with video on demand from Antietam Cable.
Sports fans rejoice! Antietam Cable's sports package delivers all your sports action, including NFL Red Zone and MLB Network. Don't miss a touchdown, three-pointer, or home run from your favorite teams in your region or across the country. From pro to college to life in the great outdoors, Antietam Cable has your sports coverage. Sports Plus. Order now and get 60 days free. Instant activation with a digital box. Call Antietam Cable now, 301-797-5000.
Welcome back to the show. We continue now with girls basketball, and the playoffs are upon us. The brackets are out, and joining me to talk about them, Williamsport head coach Kevin Murphy. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Wes.
Well, it's been a terrific season, overcoming some early year adversity. 17 wins right now, heading into the playoffs as the number 2 seed in your section in 2A. Talk a little about where this team is right now and what it needs to do in terms of advancing in the playoffs.
Well, as you said, we had some adversity, especially early in the year with losing Sydney Hawkinsmith, who was such a key piece for us the last few years. The kids have done a great job of filling specific roles. We don't have a lot of room for error. We're not real big after Olivia Coleman inside. We've defended really, really well and done a good, much better job the second half of the season of taking care of the basketball. The little things that we've done have helped us get those 17 wins because there's not a lot of room for error for us, big margin for error.
You had a 9-game winning streak that came to an end last Friday at Liberty. But what do you use out of that particular game that's a positive going forward?
I feel like it's the perfect setup for the playoffs because it was a playoff type environment, intensity. We played a really tough opponent on the road, which you're going to have to do in the playoffs. We learned a lot of different things that we were getting away with some things against the teams that we were beaten by 20 points. You're not going to get away with in the playoffs against better opponents. So it was good for our kids to get refocused. I don't like the fact that we got about a 10-day layoff, but it helped us with understanding what things we need to tweak going into the playoffs.
Yeah, you earned that first round bye, and then your first game will be Tuesday of next week, or Monday. Right now, there's a little conjecture on that, but Mountain Ridge will be the opponent. What's your preparation for that? As you said, I mean, it's a long time off, the most you've had all season between games going into this one.
It's tough because you have about a week of practice, but then if you win that first game, you got a day off, and then you get right to your next opponent, which most likely, if we would get by Mountain Ridge, would be Walkersville. And Walkersville is not a team you can prepare for in one day. You know, they've learned a lot of different things, a lot of different offensive sets, and they're deep, and there's different things you got to prepare for. So it makes it tougher. But as far as Mountain Ridge goes, we're not overlooking them at all. They've got some nice pieces. They've got 2 6'2" kids inside, and love to shoot the three, like a lot of those teams from Cumberland in that area would like to do. And we're going to be challenged next week.
Well, let's take a look at the other brackets, too. Let's go over to 1A West, Section 2 there. Boonesboro gets the number 2 seed. 13 wins coming into that game, pending one more regular season game as we tape here on Tuesday. But they're a team that seems to be not exactly primed for the playoffs, just given injuries that have kind of hit them as of late. What do you see for Boonesboro?
Yeah, you're right. They're kind of in flux. They're trying to find their way late in the season. What helped us with losing Sydney early, it allowed us to have about a 15-game span of preparing and getting kids into roles. Right now, for Coach Sam Connolly, that's a tough deal because you're so late in the season. And they didn't just lose 1 point guard, they lost 2. And I think in the playoffs, you better have really good guard play. You better be able to defend, but have good guard play. And so that hurts them. The matchup with Smithsburg's a tough one because it's a tale of 2 different teams. Smithsburg's smaller, likes to shoot threes quicker. Boonesboro's got 4 6-footers. They're bigger. So it's a tough matchup if Smithsburg gets by Brunswick. But I think it's one of those things where last night they just beat Allegheny and we're down 17 points and came back and won on the road. Yeah. That's a huge benefit to a team going to the playoffs. A lot of confidence there. So, and Boonesboro in the last few years in the playoffs has done well So is Smithsburg. So that could be a great matchup if they get together.
Yeah, 5 seniors on that Boonesboro team who will be out there on the floor at some point in that first matchup. And you said it could be Smithsburg, who is the 3 seed, have won 5 in a row before losing at Catoctin on Friday. They get 6 seed at Brunswick. It's been interesting between those two this season because Smithsburg won at Brunswick, yet they lost at home against Brunswick where that game will be played. But now everything changes. It's a potential one and done.
Yeah, it's an interesting game because I've seen Brunswick play, and they're like Jekyll and Hyde. I've seen them play really well. They'd went to Middletown and beat Middletown, and then they turn around and lose to somebody by 20 points. So, that's going to be an interesting matchup, and I think the thing that's going to help Smithsburg is since that Brunswick loss, they played a lot better, and they're gelling, and they're playing well at the right time, which is the key going into the playoffs.
5th-seeded Clear Spring goes to the 4th seed North Carroll. Clear Spring's trouble all year long really has been scoring points, averaging just 38.5 per game. First time they played North Carroll, they scored 19 in a loss. So I don't know if you can turn the switch on in the playoffs, but if there were ever a time to find it, it would be now.
And it's tough for Clear Spring because they're so young. They're going to be good. They're just very young and they're not very big. And going on the road to Carroll County School in your first playoff game for a lot of those young ladies, that's a tough deal for them. But, hey, they've played better too as the season wore on, but it's going to be a tough road there for them.
Over in Section 1, Hancock has won more games this year than they won all of last year, 6-12. They get a first-round bye, but then the number 1 seed on that side, Allegheny, awaits them at their place. Incidentally, Manchester Valley, the number 1 seed over there in Section 2. 3A West, Section 2. 4th-seeded North Hagerstown gets a home game against number 5 Tuscarora. Potentially, this is a game the Hubs certainly have every right to win. They beat Tuscarora earlier this season.
Yeah, they did, and I think they're better than they were when they beat Tuscarora. I think they beat Tuscarora in December, so definitely, and they get the home game. And then if they win that one, they get a tough matchup because they've got to play the number 1 seed in Frederick. So, but it's definitely a game, the first game of the playoffs for North that they can win.
Yeah, North 4-5 against 3A schools this year, including 2 losses to that Frederick team that you mentioned. And 6th-seeded South Hagerstown, 1-19 coming in. Average margin of defeat this season, over 22 points per game. But hey, this is the playoffs. There's nothing to lose here but a basketball game. They'll be at number 3, Thomas Johnson.
And Thomas Johnson's pretty good. They're really athletic. Every time I read an article about South, Helen Mency, their coach, says, we got to play 32 minutes and maybe we can beat somebody. And they did that against Clear Spring. It's going to take a 32-minute game for them to beat Thomas Johnson.
Well, Coach, thanks for being here and sizing up the playoffs for us. And best of luck with your team, and we'll be keeping an eye on you.
Thanks, Wes.
I'll be back right after this. I've got Kevin Hartman of the North Hagerstown Hubs boys team to talk about the boys brackets in just a moment.
Tony's Pizza in Williamsport has had the same simple philosophy since 1985. Start with simple products. Sauce from the best Italian tomatoes. The best cheese and dough made fresh every day. Then mix those with a great atmosphere, and you'll have the best dining experience you can find. Tony's is known for their pasta dishes, subs, pizzas, and specialty items like their Nutella Dots and the famous Crazy Tony. Simply put, they want to give the best food they can give to their customers. So stop in today to Tony's Pizza in Williamsport.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. We continue with playoff basketball now as we get to the boys, and I'm joined by North Hagerstown head coach Kevin Hartman. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, congratulations on the season you've had so far. I know you're looking for much bigger and better things as the playoffs get underway, but not bad at all right now. I mean, 16-6, the number 3 seed in 3A West Section 2, winners of 7 of your last 8 games. So all of that sounds positive, but as you head into the postseason here, what are the points of emphasis for your team going forward?
Really, it sounds like coach talk, but you want to get better each practice. You get the chance to face a team that you've played before in Thomas Johnson, faced them about a week and a half ago. So as we go into practice this week to face them, we just want to clean up some things. We've played 4 games in 6 days, like an NBA schedule, so we do need to improve on a couple areas.
Yeah, 7-3 against 3A opponents this season, so that certainly has to bode well. And we were talking before we even went on the air, and you played just about everybody everywhere this season. How do you feel that prepares you for the playoffs?
We've seen a lot of different styles of basketball, whether it's been slowing us down, some zones, man-to-man, full court. So I feel like we're prepared. It's just a matter now of brushing up on some things, and like I said, getting our legs back underneath us with all those games, the snow. You can look at it one or two ways. It helped us because it gave us a little break, clear our minds. At the same time, conditioning, I like where we are again, legs back underneath us and ready to roll.
And what's your approach? Are you more a guy who's worried more about what your team can do, or do you factor in all of that scouting, worry about what the other team might do?
I think a little of both at this point in the season because they have played some of these teams, like you mentioned. At the same time, you have to be very aware of what you need to clean up. Moving forward, you want to know what the shooters are doing, what they like to run, what defense they might throw at you. But at the same time, if you have too much in your own minds, you can't play free. You can't just go out and do what you do best.
Right, and this is the time of year when obviously you need to do that because you're one loss away from the season coming to an end, and clearly you don't want that to happen. Also in 3A, in your section, of course, South Hagerstown resides there. The Rebels get the number 5 seed, 13-9 overall. It's been an interesting season for South. They've played a lot of different teams too in a lot of different places, but they've alternated wins with losses the last 8 games. And going into the playoffs, they don't seem to be terribly consistent at this point. They play at 4-seeded Frederick on Friday, a team that they beat a week ago Saturday, 48-45. You played Frederick earlier this year too, and you're kind of the guru for a lot of these coaches, right? Because you played so many of these teams. But I think South has a big shot there in that game.
Absolutely. I know South playing the same kind of style that we would play. I know they've played Frederick before. I think they have a great chance there. Just knowing that they're going to use their bench, they'll get out and run. They'll get some shots up, and they have rebounders. He has lots of options, whether it's coming off the bench. And then Frederick, because we have played them, I know they have the same kind of game plan. So it should be a great game in that first round matchup.
Yeah, one style very similar versus the other that's very similar there. Over in 2A West Section 1, team that's been red hot, Williamsport. The Wildcats, the number 2 seed, 14-6 pending a game on Tuesday night against Hedgesville. Won 7 in a row heading into that one. And the Wildcats' Achilles heel this season, though, it seemed to be Middletown, a team to whom they've lost twice, whereas you've defeated Middletown twice this season. But they start, of course, with the 3 seed Mountain Ridge first and foremost. But going forward with that Middletown team, that's a team that can shoot the ball really, really well. But Williamsport right now is on a roll. I think that's probably where you want to be going into the playoffs, playing that well.
Absolutely. Williamsport's a tough team. I mean, it was a team we couldn't solve. I felt like we were in both games. Going forward, they play Mountain Ridge, who we did play as well. I think it's a game that both teams will get out and try to run. Both teams against us scored in the 60s, so that'll be a fun matchup again for the first round game. And if they are fortunate enough to advance to play Middletown, both teams can get out, shoot the ball. They don't have a lot of height, either team, so it should be interesting to see what the 2A matchups look like.
Yeah, I think so too. Over in 1A West Section 2, top seed there is Clear Spring, hampered a bit by an injury to their point guard, Jarrett Lozage, and that's shown up here late in the season. Clearly, you don't ever want to have an injury, but late in the year, boy, that's a tough adjustment, especially at that position. Clear Springs had a great year overall, there's no question about that, but they have a guy in Spencer Schultz that I think when you get to the playoffs, you really need to have kind of that marquee guy to sort of lead you. And when he's a senior, that doesn't hurt.
Absolutely. I mean, he knows what it takes to win. Put them on his shoulders. Obviously, they'll have Fisher, and unfortunately with Jarrett, he runs the show. So some of that's going to fall back on Spencer, and with Fisher in the post, just gives them a big body that hopefully some of those role guys who were not playing a lot of minutes as they step up, I'm sure they're going to feel the need, hey, this is our time, we need to take some of that pressure off of these other 2 players. I think they're going to do well in 1A, though.
Yeah, the Blazers get the number 1 seed there, as mentioned, and they'll play on Monday against either the 5 seed North Carroll or the 4 seed Smithsburg. Smithsburg will host that game on Friday. The 2 seed is Boonesboro, who gets a bye. And all year long, Coach, I've looked at this team and I've said, boy, they've got the pieces to be a pretty solid group. Defense has kind of forsaken them at times, but when they've been able to play defense, they've given teams all kinds of trouble.
I'll tell you what, Boonesboro is one team on the schedule that when we played them both games, it was almost impossible to run away from them. And you would think with the speed and the quickness we have, it would be easy. They just have those bodies and shooters. They rebound. Tough matchup for us. Even with Smithsburg, first time we played them, they did the exact same thing. They were able to make us play their game plan. So even those matchups that both those teams have, it should be interesting in 1A. A lot of fun to watch that.
Yeah, it could be the third seed for Boonesboro. Brunswick would be the fourth time those two teams would meet this season. Boonesboro's won 2 of the first 3. And Hancock over there in Section 1, the 5 seed there at the 4 seed, Southern Garrett. The number 1 seed there is Allegheny. Coach, all starts for you on Friday against Thomas Johnson, as mentioned, and certainly wish you the best of luck, and thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Next week, got all kinds of things, including playoff basketball. We've got region wrestling and a little more indoor track and field, too. All of that coming your way in 7 days. Until then, I'll see you on the inside.
Hey.